If you push one part of the balloon with a cylinder, what happens? The balloon will be deformed due to the weight of the cylinder, and this deformed area here is a visible representation of Humphreys' model. The mass distorts the space-time. Therefore, you have the different gravitational energy in different places there. So this red lines there, right? So that area, this is a 4D model of Humphreys universe with its center and boundary. In this model, our entire universe is contained within the flat area, surrounded by the shell of water above the filament. Okay, and the water above here, the filament has an enormous mass. In the figure on the left, the water, you have this shell of water outside the universe. The shell, it can be very thin, maybe 10 meter, 20 meter. I mean, nobody knows, right? So say 10 meter. Still, considering the size of the universe, it'll have a huge mass. That'll be billion times heavier than all the galaxies' mass combined. Okay, so this water has an enormous mass. The mass of the water, therefore, would create a curvature in space-time. That's exactly what happens like this. The water above the filament will create a curvature in space-time like this. And that is represented here. At this stage, galaxies do not exist yet. This is the stage where the galaxies have not been created yet. And interestingly, this gravitational effect can be simulated using trampoline like this because they look similar. Now you just cut this trampoline by half and you see it from the side, and that's the graph. Okay, y-axis is the gravitational energy, x-axis is the radius. So here the relative speed of clocks is a function of gravitational energy and distance from the center of the cosmos. And according to Einstein, time slows down at a lower potential until a critical value is reached, and below the critical level, time itself stops. So here, all these things, including the critical potential and explanation of why the time has to stop, have been mathematically substantiated by Humphrey. But instead of using math and physics with equations here, let me use animations to explain the phenomena here, okay? Again, this is a cross-sectional view of the half of the trampoline, where the y-axis represents the gravitational energy and the x-axis is the distance from the center of the universe to the shell of water above the heavens. So here, just for your convenience, let's put the Earth at the center. I mean, in reality, we are not at the center. We are near the center, maybe billions of light years away, whatever, right? But just for the convenience in calculation or modeling. So God created the heavens and earth. So that's the current situation. Then God Rakia create this Rakia space, then surrounded by the shell of water outside, right? So that's the status. And you see this cross section, and then lower right, you see this 3D view of this state. So this water above heavens, right, is here out a radius of, say, billions of light years here, water above. Do you see this yellow curve, right? It's the center, you have Earth, and outside you have water above, and you have rest of the curve going up. That's just, you can just ignore. That's just a mathematical curve. So our whole entire universe is in this bottom part, flat part, okay? And the galaxies are not there yet. So because the enormous mass of this shell of water, it will leave the fabric of space just above the critical potential. And this level, in terms of the gravitational energy, would be just above the critical level. I mean, that's just because with all these equations and all these calculations. So just trust me, okay? Just trust Humphreys. Humphreys did that, okay? Now, the horizontal dashed line represents the critical potential again, okay, on the bottom. Now, imagine that during the fourth day, God created star mass. Let me go back here. Now, see the difference? God created the star masses. Genesis 1:14-15, let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth. And it was so. And as soon as God created the galaxy masses, the fabric of space drops below the critical potential starting from its center. Why? Imagine on this trampoline, look at the trampoline drawing there, and imagine you put thousands of marbles onto the fabric. What happens? The fabric would curve down naturally, right? So eventually, the entire fabric of space drops down in this way, below the critical level where there's no clock ticking. Let me go back. So you have this marble, you just throw thousands of marble onto the fabric, and it'll drop down, right? That's in theory. Basically, Humphrey uses the trampoline model because as their shape, you can make this mathematically analogous, although they're totally different thing. Trampoline and the gravitational potential, totally different thing, but mathematically they're analogous. So basically, one can explain a whole thing using this trampoline model. So that's what Humphrey did. Okay. By the way, Bible. Okay, you got that. So this shaded area. Look at this bottom left shaded area. The entire fabric of space drops down below the critical level where there's no clock ticking. So at some point of day 4, when God created these galaxies, suddenly the clocks stop ticking. Okay, according to this model. By the way, the Bible declares that God stretched the heavens, and we have 17 such verses. For example, Isaiah 40:22 says, "Who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in." Here, the word expressing stretch or spread out is nata. Here, nata does not mean a huge stretch out of a rubber balloon or pizza dough. No. Okay. The word nata is not consistent with the expanding universe. Okay, that is what Humphrey found like maybe 10 years ago. Before then, even Humphrey and other creationists, the physicists, thought that this 17 verses mean this expanding universe, as Big Bang Theory explained, right? But it turns out that from the scripture, you study the meaning of this nata, actually that's not. Rather, in most situations, actually there are 200 times this nata appear in the Old Testament, and there's different meanings of nata there. But in most situations, nata means spreading out something folded up or rolled up like a tent, or something folded up, rolled up, bending or turning, right? And like you stretch the fabric of a tent. As you can see from this photo here, you stretch your tent, right? That is basically their understanding in that period, right? And Moses and so on. So based on this understanding, what happens if God stretches the fabric of the universe? Space-time itself is slightly stretched as a tent is stretched, since God applied this tension to this space-time. So it's a crazy idea, right? That is not consistent with the Big Bang cosmology at all. Humphreys' idea purely came from the scriptures. Okay, what happens if God stretches the fabric of the universe? Imagine that the trampoline fabric that was curved down due to the mass of galaxies, now stretched. What happens to the curve here? The fabric would be straightened up as the center of the fabric move up, starting from the edge. So let me show you this animation here. So God stretches like this. So you can see this word event horizon in the Big Bang cosmology. Event horizon is appear in this black hole where beyond the event horizon, even light cannot come out. So that's the point. But in the white hole cosmology is different. It is beyond this point, time stops. Okay, so that's a kind of a different concept from Big Bang cosmology. So even you can see that as God stretches the space-time, event horizon becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay. So in other words, you can see that the size of timelessness decreases as shown here, and eventually the Earth will come out of the timelessness zone. What does that mean? So let's see this in a 3D model. So what you're seeing here is 4D model. Our entire universe is in this 2D flat land, right? And we are looking at that from the side. Now let's switch our thought and our everyday life 3D view. Okay, so this is this. So if the timeless sphere, you have this timeless sphere, because timeless means even light stops proceeding. So there's no light, because even light stops moving. What does that mean? It's just total black, pitch black, nothing. Okay, but then what happens here, as you can see here, this timelessness zone shrinks. So what happens in 3D model? Let's take a look. Okay, it shrinks. Can you see it? It shrinks down. You have this entire sphere, and it shrinks down. Okay, as God stretches the heavens. So if the timeless sphere moves inward at the speed of light, for example, the inbound light from all these created galaxies, right, which are out of this timeless zone, will follow right behind the sphere as it shrinks. As each galaxy emerges from the receding timeless region, it resumes emitting light. So as a sphere of timelessness disappears, the light that has been following the sphere reaches Earth, including the light that started billions of light years away. Make sense? Okay. And on Earth, is still only the fourth day, because in Earth, time stopped. So imagine that I am an observer, you're an observer. The observer on the night side of the Earth would have seen a black sky. Okay, one instant, black sky, because that's before God created all these galaxies, sun and moon. And suddenly the sky filled with stars in the next, suddenly, right? Because God created. And what happens is the fourth day of the creation, how long did it take? You know what I'm saying? So God created all the stars, but since time stops, we don't see anything, we don't perceive anything. But then as this timelessness zone comes out of, right? I mean, the Earth eventually comes out of this timeless zone, right? If our Earth was at the center. Then by the time Earth was out, all these galaxy lights, okay, arrived on Earth already. So on the fourth day of creation, how long did it take God to make stars and bring their light to Earth? No time at all, according to clocks here on Earth. And that is what Humphreys concludes from his creationist cosmology research. All right. And note that while Humphreys' model explains a lot of things, it is only the beginning of the process of developing viable cosmological models that are consistent with the scripture and astronomical data. It's far, far, far from away from any perfection here. So take this as a divine effort toward defending the Bible against the Big Bang cosmology that destroys biblical creation history and timeline, not to mention the foundation of the gospel. So this is an effort to construct a model that explains the origin and the structure of the universe to defend the biblical creation. Anyway, a take-home message for you is that the Big Bang cosmology does not need to be the only viable explanation of what is observed. One can always construct a cosmological model that fits the biblical creation history and timeline. All right. Okay, so as promised, I finished my lecture in less than 40 minutes. Okay, so I'm very punctual. Okay. Now, we don't need a break here, right? It's only 40 minutes. So let's just proceed here. I think we have more than an hour of the panel discussion. So let's now have a panel discussion plus Q&A with these creationist experts in the subject areas. But before then, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions on this lecture?